What is up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of FittDesign TV. As always, so glad to have you guys back on the channel. On today's episode, we have a design detailed spotlight specifically for you accessory designers that are looking to design and develop quality backpacks for those with an active lifestyle. So I'm going to be pulling in from my experience as a fashion, sportswear, gym wear, accessories, pretty much anything to do with an active lifestyle designer working in the field, working with thousands of brands, literally thousands of brands over the last 6 years to design and develop tons of accessories. So what are my go-to tenets? Like, what are the things that I look for when I'm designing a backpack to make sure that it is the best possible backpack for my customers? Well, watch this episode. You're about to find out. Welcome to FittDesign TV. Are you interested in sports fashion, design, and manufacturing? Are you establishing your own brand? You're looking good. Anthony, how are we doing? Do you want to? Thank you. Well, you've come to the right place. Lights, camera, action. The first thing that I always consider with a backpack is going to be the ergonomics. Backpacks are this kind of interesting accessory that we use. It's a highly functional accessory, and typically we're carrying them on either our shoulders or our backs on a day-to-day basis. So they need to be as functional and as comfortable as possible. Ergonomics is going to be king. What are some key things that I consider when it comes to ergonomics? Number one is going to be the actual shoulder straps themselves. Not only the materials that they're made out of, I definitely want to make sure that they're plush, they have some form of foam material, maybe some gel padding, but I also want to make sure that they're the correct shape and they're the correct distance apart and that they're supporting not only me, but the backpack in the correct possible way. So that is the backpack straps. But then I look at how am I able to adjust my backpack straps? Am I able to adjust the length? Am I able to adjust the distance when they're on me? Do I have a sternum strap, which is going to be this horizontal strap that goes across the chest area to hold everything in place? The last thing that you want is a backpack where the shoulders are slipping off, or they're too bulky, or they're too light. You want to have the perfect balance. You want something where the customer feels that when they put on this backpack, that it just feels like a part, an extension of their body. And that comes down to just the way that you fit the straps, the way you design the back padding, making sure that it's plush, but it's not too plush. Because if it's too plush, then it's going to be less durable. It's also going to be too heavy. At the same time, how much adjustability do I have with the straps? How much adjustability do I have with the sternum straps? The back padding, am I able to add more padding? Am I able to remove padding? What type of padding do I have? Is it a padding that is going to conform with the shape of my body, the shape of my back over time? Is the back too long? Is it too short? All of these things are key things that I take into account when designing the ergonomics of a bag. At the end of the day, if you design a bag that is beautiful to look at, but it's trash to wear, and it's something that you just put on once, and after 20 minutes you feel like you want to take it off, well, that's not a backpack that people are going to come back to time and time again. Next up is going to be the capacity of the backpack. With backpacks, you always want to hit the sweet spot. You don't want to make the backpack too big, and you don't want to make it too small. So number one is going to come down to understanding in which scenarios your backpack is going to be used. A daily backpack is going to be a lot smaller than a weekend backpack or a travel backpack. Also, a purse style or a daily carry backpack is going to be even smaller than a backpack that you carry on occasion. So understanding your customer's use case scenario is going to be key. Typically, there's 3 key categories of sizes that I tap into when designing a backpack. You're going to have your 20 to 30 liter range. You're going to have your 40 to 50 liter range, and then you're going to have your 60 liter plus range. 20 to 30 liters is your daily backpack. Your 40 to 50 is going to be your weekender, and then your 50 to 60 is going to be your Voyager, your hiking backpack, the backpack that you take on expeditions, the backpack that is for more than 4 or 5 days. This is first, you understand where your customer is going to use this backpack, and then you look at how much space you have, and then you distribute that space accordingly. Let's look at the 20 to 30 liter backpack. You're not just going to have a sack that has one large pocket in it. You could do that, and a lot of bags that are very simple do that, but it comes down to understanding how to distribute that 20 to 30 liters into functional and usable space. Typically, a daily backpack will come with one key compartment, an accessories compartment, a smaller zip compartment, and potentially a laptop compartment. As you scale up, as you go into the 40 to 50 liter, you're going to get additional compartments. You're going to get side compartments. You're going to get tertiary compartments within your compartment. And as you go to the last level. You're going to have a lot more flexibility and variety in the internals in terms of how the internal space is split up so that you can maximize usage and you can maximize the customer's ability to divide the things that they use on a day-to-day basis. I'll give you guys a specific example of this. Let's just say we have a 60-liter duffel and you have your open compartment that is the central compartment. Sure, you could theoretically have an open compartment in the middle, but give your customers a little bit more flexibility. So perhaps you have open divider pockets, maybe you have a mesh pocket, maybe even within the key compartment you have these detachable dividers that you're able to sort of construct larger or more segmented spaces depending on your specific needs. If you're a content creator, you might want to keep your clothes separate from your actual equipment that you use to shoot with on a day-to-day basis. If you're an entrepreneur, you may want to keep your work stuff separate from your clothes and your shoes. So all of this is going to come down to your customer and how they are going to use this backpack and in which scenarios they're going to use. So get into inside your customers' heads and ultimately segment the capacity so that you can enhance your customer's experience. Next up, we have materials, and I have done a separate video in the past where I've actually gone ahead and covered all the key material points that I would typically recommend for backpacks and accessories alike. But just to recap quickly, what I look for when it comes to backpack materials is going to be lightweight, very durable, climate proof, which means waterproof, windproof, and just the ability to retain the thermals of what's inside and what's on the outside, and ultimately something that is cost effective. Sure, you could theoretically use the highest end horse leather or cow leather or calf leather, but at the end of the day, it may not be financially feasible for the end customer that you're using, especially since leather tends to be less durable than something like a cotton canvas or a polyester canvas. So stick to your synthetics, stick to garments or stick to fabrics that are going to perform better, can be more durable, and ultimately are going to give your customer a bang for their buck. Leather is a great option, but typically this comes down to more of the daily use backpack that you might use in a fashion sense or a business setting. Something that is specifically catered towards an active lifestyle needs to be a lot more durable and a lot more robust. So stick to synthetics, woven fabrics, treated nylons, ripstop fabrics. All these are going to do the job and then some. Next up is going to be ventilation. So what does this mean? The last thing that you want to do is to be carrying your bag every single day and then noticing sweat patches where your back or is hitting the back pad of your back. Typically what I like to do is at the bottoms of the actual shoulder straps and the backpack pad, I like to use open EVA foam mesh to let the mesh breathe and to ultimately let the skin breathe. By opening up that mesh panel, I allow for ventilation, for airflow, for just a better user experience. And this is not something a lot of people think of. That's why I typically try to stay away from molded back pads. So those sort of like EVA foam molded, I like to go for mesh back pads. They just do a lot of a better job, both in the ergonomics department and in the ventilation and keeping the customer cool department. Last but not least is going to be user experience and accessibility. When it comes down to when and how you use your bag, you're most often going to interact with your bag in scenarios where you need something from your bag. So you're going to be zipping and unzipping, grabbing things, storing things, taking things out, putting them back in, understanding how often your customers are going to do that and what specific items they're actually going to be putting in and taking out of their bags is going to be key towards understanding how to structure the user experience of the bag. Consider having multiple different options for accessibility. Consider having top-loaded options, side options, bottom-loaded options. All of these are going to give your bag the extra oomph and the extra variety and variability that it needs to be the bag that your customers go for time and time again without having to worry about it. Let's use the EDC bag, for example. So the everyday carry bag. Sure, you're going to want to have your key and your larger compartment. That's going to be the main compartment that you might store your clothes, your books, just your larger items that you might have to use less and less often. Then you'll definitely want a segmented portion that is specifically for your MacBook. I know for me personally, I'm always taking out my MacBook every single time that I reach somewhere or that I'm working somewhere or that I'm having a client review. So having quick access to my MacBook, making sure that it's secured at all times by having a nice foam lining on the inside, that's also important to me. Also, I carry my AirPods, I carry my keys, I carry my phone, I carry my passport. All of these things are much smaller in size, and I typically like to have them much more accessible more often. So I'll have separate accessory style pockets for those, whether they're on the side or they're horizontally mounted. Having an understanding of how your customers are going to integrate and interact with your backpack is going to give you those unique opportunities, those unique moments in time to design a backpack that just speaks to the customer and feels very intuitive to use. If you look at some of the best design teams out there. They don't just design in a way that looks beautiful. They design in a way that is deeply integrated with how the customer is going to use or how they believe the customer should use the product. And then they do field testing to be able to see, okay, that strap or that zipper or that back pad is too thick, it's too thin, the zipper is too big, the compartment is too small, it doesn't fit this. What if we put these in there? There's a lot that goes into designing accessories that most people don't think of. This is why a great accessories designer is human-centric first and foremost. Well guys, that is it. That is a wrap on this episode. I've loved making this episode for you, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed it as well and have learned a thing or two about designing good quality, well-used, and highly flexible and accessible backpacks so that your customers can get the maximum use out of the designs and the accessories you create for them. Let me know if you believe any of these rules or these tenets that I've mentioned, or if I missed any rules and tenets that you would personally add to the list. I always enjoy hearing from you guys, and let me know what other product categories you would like to see me sort of outline and deconstruct next. It could be shoes, it could be yoga mats, it could be whatever it is. What are you interested in hearing from my experience in terms of how I design and how I go about creating products? Guys, from the very bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fit Design TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.